Your body, mind, and spirit already know how to restore. Healing is not a process of struggle or force. It is the natural expression of life when resistance and error are released. Most people approach healing as something that must be earned, achieved, or manipulated through effort, medication, or external practices. While these methods may provide temporary relief, true healing originates from an inner intelligence that transcends human effort. The principles of healing are universal and operate regardless of circumstance, appearing spontaneously when the mind aligns with the truth of wholeness and presence. At the core of healing is the recognition of life as inherently whole. Illness, limitation, or imbalance is not a permanent condition but a misperception arising from separation or misunderstanding of the true nature of life. Healing begins the moment one recognizes that health and wholeness are not distant goals to be achieved, but ever-present realities that can never be lost. This recognition shifts attention from trying to fix the problem to allowing the natural intelligence of life to restore balance effortlessly. Surrender is essential to this process. The mind often attempts to control outcomes, insisting that results depend on personal effort. Surrender does not mean passivity or indifference. It means releasing the belief that healing must be forced or engineered. When the mind steps aside, the body, emotions, and spirit are free to respond to the life within. Awareness and alignment with this inner presence amplify the natural flow of restoration, allowing insight, energy, and balance to operate where they are needed most. Healing is also grounded in the understanding that it is effortless when approached correctly. Struggle, fear, or resistance obstruct the flow of life, making restoration seem distant or slow. When the mind rests in the awareness of inherent wholeness, and attention is aligned with the sustaining intelligence, healing occurs naturally. This principle applies not only to the body but also to the mind and spirit, as clarity, peace, and vitality emerge spontaneously when alignment is maintained. Illness, discomfort, or limitation is never the absence of life, it is the reflection of thought, attention, or belief that has strayed from the inner source. By recognizing this, the practitioner or individual understands that the task is not to battle symptoms but to restore consciousness to truth. Restoration is the natural consequence of aligning with the principles that govern life itself. Ultimately, the principles of healing teach that life is inherently intelligent, whole, and restorative. By releasing resistance, recognizing wholeness, surrendering personal control, and embedding in awareness, healing unfolds effortlessly. It is not an external achievement, but a natural expression of alignment with the inner source, revealing that the power to restore, renew, and sustain is always present within. Healing is a natural expression of life when resistance and error are released because the essence of life is inherently whole, intelligent, and restorative. Most people approach healing as if it requires effort, struggle, or intervention, believing that health must be manufactured through medicine, techniques, or persistent effort. While such methods can support the body temporarily, they often address symptoms rather than the underlying reality of wholeness. True healing occurs when the mind and consciousness cease resisting life, judgment, or perceived limitations, allowing the innate restorative power of existence to operate freely. Resistance creates tension and blocks the natural flow of life, whereas release of resistance enables the self-healing intelligence of the body, mind, and spirit to express itself naturally. Error in this context is any thought, belief, or perception that is misaligned with the truth of life's wholeness. Misperceptions about illness, lack, or limitation reinforce the illusion of separation and prolong suffering. When attention is fixed on what appears to be missing, broken, or disordered, energy is directed toward struggle rather than restoration. By recognizing error as a temporary misalignment rather than a permanent condition, and releasing the insistence that life must conform to personal control or fear, the mind opens to the deeper intelligence that governs existence. Healing occurs spontaneously in this state because the body and consciousness are already whole. The illusion of disorder simply fades when attention is returned to truth. The principle that healing is natural when resistance is released applies not only to physical ailments but also to emotional and mental imbalances. Stress, anxiety, and negative thought patterns are often sustained by a belief in separation, inadequacy, or the need to control outcomes. When resistance to experience, perception, or circumstance is let go, clarity and calm emerge, allowing insight and natural correction to arise. Energy that was previously trapped in tension becomes available to restore balance, revealing that health and harmony are the default condition of life. Healing also requires patience and trust in this natural flow. Effort to force results or control timing often reinforces resistance and blocks the innate intelligence that restores. By simply releasing control and allowing life to operate, the mind and body are freed to respond spontaneously. Life itself is a continuous process of renewal, and when alignment with its intelligence is restored, healing is no longer a task or achievement but a natural, effortless expression. In this way, healing is less about doing and more about allowing, less about force and more about recognition. When resistance and error are released, life's inherent wholeness expresses itself freely, demonstrating that restoration is the natural state of existence, and that the power to heal has always been present, waiting only for our attention to align with it. True healing originates from an inner, spiritual intelligence, not external methods alone, because the source of restoration is not found in effort, techniques, or physical remedies, but in the recognition of life's inherent wholeness. While medicine, therapies, and external practices can provide support, they address only symptoms or temporary conditions, often leaving the deeper cause unrecognized. The inner intelligence of life is the organizing principle that sustains the body, mind, and spirit, maintaining balance and harmony even when appearances suggest otherwise. Healing becomes effective when the mind aligns with this intelligence, allowing it to flow unimpeded through the individual, guiding restoration naturally and effortlessly. Most people seek healing from external sources because they perceive themselves as separate from the life within. They may rely on medication, procedures, or corrective measures, believing that personal effort alone can restore well-being. While such approaches can be helpful, they cannot access the deeper, self-correcting intelligence that governs the body, emotions, and consciousness. The inner intelligence is constantly at work, adjusting, repairing, and harmonizing, but it requires recognition and attention to operate fully. When the mind acknowledges this source, interference diminishes, and the natural processes of balance and restoration can express themselves freely. Healing through spiritual intelligence involves recognizing that the body and mind are already whole and that limitations, illness, or discomfort are temporary distortions of perception. The moment attention shifts from trying to fix or force healing to aligning with the inner presence, the individual allows restoration to occur naturally. This intelligence knows what is needed, where it is needed, and when it is needed. It is precise, intelligent, and immediate, operating beyond the constraints of human reasoning or effort. When the mind steps aside and trusts this presence, healing is no longer a struggle but a natural unfolding of life itself. This principle also extends to emotional and mental well-being. Fear, anxiety, and disharmony arise when attention is placed on external conditions or the illusion of separation from the inner source. By recognizing that the spiritual intelligence within governs all aspects of life, the mind releases resistance, allowing clarity, peace, and balance to return. Energy that was previously consumed in tension or worry becomes available to restore harmony, and the body, mind, and spirit are naturally realigned. Ultimately, true healing is not dependent on external interventions, although they may be useful as support. It originates from the inner intelligence that sustains life itself. When the mind recognizes and aligns with this intelligence, resistance falls away, and the natural processes of restoration operate effortlessly. Healing, therefore, is not something to be achieved through force or technique. It is a direct, living expression of the wisdom, vitality, and wholeness that exist at the core of every individual. Recognition of wholeness precedes the restoration of health and balance, because healing is not something that is created from outside or imposed upon the body or mind. It is a return to what already exists. Most people assume that health must be achieved, fought for, or earned through effort, treatments, or external remedies. While these measures can support the body temporarily, they cannot establish the deeper foundation of healing. True restoration begins with an inner acknowledgement that life, in its essence, is whole, complete, and intelligent. Illness or limitation is not the absence of life but the result of misperception or focus on dissonance, rather than on the inherent wholeness that underlies all being. When an individual recognizes wholeness, the mind, body, and spirit begin to realign naturally. The body does not resist life, it responds to the consciousness inhabiting it. If the mind believes that the body is broken or defective, tension and fear reinforce symptoms and prolong imbalance. Recognition of wholeness, however, shifts attention from what is perceived as lacking to what is ever present and complete. This shift in awareness allows the natural intelligence within to operate without obstruction, coordinating restoration effortlessly and accurately. Healing is not forced but allowed to unfold as the individual rests in this understanding of inherent completeness. Emotional and mental balance are also restored through the recognition of wholeness. Anxiety, worry, and fear often accompany the perception of separation, deficiency, or disorder. By acknowledging the underlying wholeness of life, the mind no longer identifies with limitation, and a sense of peace naturally arises. The individual experiences clarity and insight, making it possible to act with intelligence and compassion rather than react from fear or tension. This recognition strengthens resilience and provides the stability needed for restoration to continue unhindered. The principle that recognition precedes restoration emphasizes the importance of consciousness in healing. The body, mind, and spirit do not heal independently of awareness. Attention focused on lack or limitation reinforces the illusion of dis-ease, whereas attention focused on wholeness activates the life, giving intelligence already present. Restoration is the natural outcome of this alignment, not something that must be achieved externally. The symptoms or challenges that arise are not obstacles but signals directing attention back to the truth of completeness. Ultimately, health, balance, and vitality are never created from outside, they are always inherent. Recognition of this wholeness is the first and most essential step in healing. When the mind, heart, and spirit acknowledge what is already whole, the natural processes of restoration move freely, effortlessly, and completely, revealing that healing is not a task but a return to the truth that has always existed within. Surrender, awareness, and alignment are essential for effective healing because they allow the innate intelligence of life to operate without obstruction. Most people approach healing with effort, striving to control outcomes, force results, or manipulate circumstances to achieve a desired state. While action and care can support recovery, they cannot access the deeper principle that restores balance, vitality, and harmony naturally. True healing arises when the mind and heart release the insistence that it must act alone, when attention becomes fully aware of life's presence, and when the individual aligns with the intelligence that sustains all things. Surrender is the first key component because it frees the mind from resistance. Resistance, whether in the form of fear, doubt, or the compulsion to control, blocks the natural flow of restorative energy. When the mind steps aside and ceases to force outcomes, healing can occur effortlessly. Surrender does not mean passivity or neglect. It is the conscious recognition that life itself contains the power to restore. By releasing control, the individual opens to the flow of intelligence that knows what the body, mind, and spirit require and administers it precisely where it is needed. Awareness is equally vital because healing requires attention to the present moment. Illness, limitation, or imbalance often persists because the mind is distracted, focused on past errors or future anxieties, rather than observing the truth of life in the now. Awareness brings clarity, allowing the individual to perceive the subtle signs of restoration and recognize the presence of life's intelligence operating continuously. Through mindful recognition, the mind and body cooperate with the sustaining force, creating conditions where balance and vitality emerge naturally. Alignment is the final principle, integrating surrender and awareness into a harmonious state in which the individual is receptive to life's intelligence. Misalignment, through worry, resistance, or identification with limitation, obstructs the flow of healing. Alignment restores equilibrium, allowing energy, insight, and guidance to move freely. In this state, healing is not forced or contrived. It is a natural expression of wholeness and intelligence operating within the individual. Actions, choices, and attention become informed by this alignment, further supporting restoration. Together, surrender, awareness, and alignment form the foundation for effective and effortless healing. They shift the focus from effort and control to receptivity and recognition, allowing life itself to guide restoration. When the mind releases struggle, pays attention to the present, and aligns with the sustaining intelligence, the body, mind, and spirit respond naturally. Healing becomes not a task to accomplish, but a continuous expression of life's inherent wholeness, demonstrating that restoration is always present when the conditions of surrender, awareness, and alignment are fulfilled. Illness or limitation arises from misperception or separation from the inner source because the body, mind, and spirit are naturally whole, and any disruption is a reflection of mistaken belief rather than a true deficiency. Most people perceive disease, weakness, or imbalance as something external or imposed upon them, believing that health depends entirely on circumstances, remedies, or effort. This perception creates fear, tension, and struggle, reinforcing the very condition they wish to change. The deeper truth is that all life is sustained by an inner intelligence, and what appears as limitation emerges only when attention is focused away from this source and misaligned with the reality of wholeness. Misperception occurs when the mind identifies with the body or its experiences rather than with the sustaining presence that underlies it. People tend to define themselves by symptoms, external conditions, or transient experiences, which leads to the belief that life is fragmented or incomplete. This mistaken identification obscures the awareness of the inherent wholeness within. The moment consciousness is anchored in the inner source rather than in the perceived limitation, the misperception begins to dissolve. Illness is revealed as a temporary distortion, not a permanent condition, and restoration can proceed naturally. Separation from the inner source intensifies limitation because energy that could support restoration is diverted into fear, control, or resistance. The body and mind are already equipped with the intelligence necessary to maintain balance, but when attention is disconnected from that intelligence, natural processes are interrupted. The more the mind insists on effort or control, the more it reinforces the appearance of limitation. Conversely, recognizing the presence of the inner source allows the flow of restorative energy to move freely, correcting imbalances without struggle or force. This principle applies not only to physical conditions but also to emotional and mental states. Anxiety, depression, confusion, and worry often arise from the same misperception of separation from the inner source. By realigning attention with the sustaining presence, clarity, calmness, and resilience emerge, demonstrating that well-being is the natural state when consciousness is connected to its true source. Ultimately, illness or limitation is never the absence of life, it is the effect of misperception and the illusion of separation. By releasing identification with the condition and reconnecting with the inner intelligence that sustains life, the body, mind, and spirit return to their natural state of balance and vitality. Restoration is not something imposed externally, it is the inevitable outcome of recognizing that the source has always been present, and that any apparent limitation exists only as long as consciousness remains unaware of the wholeness that sustains it. Healing is effortless when one abides in the understanding of inherent wholeness, because true restoration does not rely on struggle, effort, or external measures, but on recognition of life's innate intelligence. Most people approach healing as if it requires work, techniques, or strategies to produce a desired outcome. While these approaches may provide temporary relief, they cannot access the deeper, self-sustaining force that governs the body, mind, and spirit. Abiding in the awareness of wholeness allows the natural intelligence of life to operate freely, restoring balance and vitality without tension or interference. The understanding of inherent wholeness shifts the focus from trying to fix or force healing to simply allowing it. When attention rests on the belief that life is already complete, and that the source of vitality is present in every moment, the mind, body, and spirit respond naturally. Effort is replaced by alignment, and struggle is replaced by ease. This principle applies not only to physical health but also to emotional and mental well-being, as clarity, calm, and resilience emerge spontaneously when attention is anchored in truth rather than illusion. Abiding in wholeness requires trust and surrender. Trust does not mean passive waiting. It means acknowledging that life's intelligence knows what is needed, where it is needed, and when it is needed. Surrender is the release of personal insistence that healing must be controlled or forced. When these conditions are met, the restorative energy that already flows through the body and mind can operate without obstruction. Symptoms, imbalances, or limitations naturally resolve as consciousness aligns with the sustaining presence within. This principle also emphasizes the importance of awareness. Conscious attention directed toward the inner source amplifies the flow of restorative intelligence. As the mind observes and recognizes wholeness, tension, fear, and resistance dissolve, creating space for balance and vitality to emerge. Awareness allows the individual to perceive subtle guidance, insight, and the natural processes that are continually at work, ensuring that healing occurs effortlessly and harmoniously. Living in the understanding of inherent wholeness transforms the experience of life. Illness and limitation are no longer seen as threats but as signals to return attention to the source. Energy is no longer wasted in struggle and life flows with intelligence and precision. Actions, decisions, and responses become aligned with the natural order, producing results that are harmonious, complete, and enduring. Ultimately, healing is not something to be achieved or forced. It is the natural expression of life when consciousness rests in the truth of its wholeness. By abiding in this understanding, the body, mind, and spirit are free to restore themselves naturally, demonstrating that health, balance, and vitality are inherent realities that operate effortlessly whenever attention is aligned with the life within. In conclusion, the principles of healing reveal that restoration is not a matter of effort, struggle, or external measures, but a natural expression of life when consciousness aligns with its inherent wholeness. True healing originates from the inner intelligence that sustains the body, mind, and spirit, and it unfolds effortlessly when resistance, misperception, and separation are released. By recognizing the wholeness already present, surrendering control, cultivating awareness, and maintaining alignment with this inner source, health, balance, and vitality naturally emerge. Healing is not something to be forced or achieved, it is the ever-present reality of life expressing itself through us, demonstrating that the power to restore, renew, and harmonize has always been within reach, waiting only for our recognition and receptivity.